welcome to another episode of the Roar podcast. This is a wellbeing podcast aimed at inspiring you to create and live a life that you absolutely love. Here at Roar, we care deeply about your well-being, your holistic well-being, so mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, social, your work, especially your work, because too many of us walk this tightrope between pressure to perform and fighting fatigue because we don't prioritize our well-being. We literally work through burnout and sacrifice our health just to get ahead in our careers. But there is another way, and it starts with you. You being your whole self, you making your whole life work, you letting your whole self roar. I am your host, Marilise de Villiers-Basson, and today I'm delighted to welcome Mindy Gibbins-Klein. Hey, Mindy, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So Mindy is the founder of the book Midwife and The Thoughtful Leader. Through keynote speaking, training, and coaching, Mindy supports entrepreneurs, executives, emerging leaders to think bigger, better, and bolder, and to create their individual, thoughtful leadership plans. To date, her companies have helped over 1,000 thought leaders to get books and articles published, become sought-after speakers and podcast guests, and develop their profiles into thought-leading brands. Her latest book, The Thoughtful Leader, challenges leaders to go beyond thought leadership and to learn thoughtful leadership, something we are really going to dive deep into today. And it's really about real consideration of people and ideas. Mindy has been shortlisted for and won 18 plus awards for her work over 21 years in 18 countries across the globe. Welcome, Mindy. I'd love to dive right into the thoughtful leader and your mission, which is to show business leaders how to build their credibility and thoughtful leadership. Tell us a little bit more, please.
Of course, I'm happy to do so because I've been thinking recently, especially after we spoke a few weeks ago, what's the most important thing that our society needs? And our society could use quite a few things, but I think thoughtfulness would lead to some of the other solutions. That's at the root of many problems that we see. People just don't think, or they don't think in the right way. But when I say thinking, is what you were talking about. It's consideration of ideas and people. So when I put together The Thoughtful Leader, the book, the podcast, all my material, I was really thinking about caring and whether people care enough. And that's kind of my work. I teach people to care like you do. And the way I do it is I teach them to care enough to put thought and more time and constructive thought into everything that they say, everything they write, and everything they do. So it's thoughtful as in caring, consideration, but also thoughtful, thinking more before we put stuff out there. And I want leaders to be writing and speaking, but I don't want them to just chuck content out there. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and it's so present with me at the moment as I'm also going through writing my second book, and that sort of need for authentic thought and quality thought and the connection between the head and the heart, as you say, the thought and the caring that comes with it, the compassion, and it so resonates with me. I've literally started listening to your audiobook, the Thoughtful Leader, that you read yourself a couple of days ago, and I literally just went straight through. I just finished it, and what I really loved about that was the clarity. It's like less than 3 hours from beginning to end, but the clarity and how you hit it, it's like a beautiful symphony. I really enjoyed it so much, and I really want to congratulate you because it's a beautiful book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I did the audiobook just as an extra thing because I started writing books over 20 years ago and there was no audiobook format. So I'm not really an expert in that, but I just thought I want to read it myself. I want to get my ideas across with, my voice. So I'm glad it worked.
It's so beautiful. Tell us a little bit more about the why. How did you end up doing this and advocating this thoughtful leadership and really, I think more so for me, your superpower for me is really your ability to help people publish their books and their stories and in 90 days, would you believe? But you've done that for so long, and I'm so curious to know what led you to feeling so and being so passionate about this.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I don't actually publish. I sold my publishing company. So my work is all around strategizing the content and the reason why and the purpose of the book and the, essence of the book and getting the content and framework together, all that stuff from the beginning of the planning all the way to finished manuscript. And that's where I like to play to help someone make sure they have a better book that will have a better chance in the market, and I work with other publishers to make sure that that book sees the light of day. The thing that's important to me, though, is if somebody is going to go to the effort of writing a book, and it takes some effort, less if they have help, but it takes effort, they really should be rewarded for that. And I think books deserve to be the best they can be. And so I know there are people in my industry who talk about just getting any old thing out there, just, speak into a recorder and get it transcribed, or just get AI to write it, all these kinds of things. And I just think it's a shame because we've heard the expression, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, people will, and they'll judge the author by the inside of the book, whether it's good, whether it stands up. And I don't know how anybody can put a book out there that they're not immensely proud of. So I began focusing on thought leadership 16 years ago now, 17 years ago, 2008. And that was really what it was all about. It's not about having a book. A book is just one representation of our thought leadership. But to be really clear and to help people, we need to put thought into what we say and give people direction. And most people are starved for direction. And then as people started using the term thought leadership, I began to get frustrated because it wasn't always what I would call thought leadership. I mean, who am I to judge? But I began to think, let's raise the bar, let's have something more meaningful. And what was missing was thoughtfulness. And so it's kind of like a higher level of thought leadership, but it's also deeper. So it's higher and it's deeper. I don't know how that makes sense, but it's both.
It's the connection between head and heart, and I think
It is.
I think that's what's so for me, especially as a woman, it's that permission, as a professional, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, um, even as a homemaker, to really be able to show up, as I say in my curriculum, as your whole self, and that means, with your full presence, with your heart, and I think you can't really be thoughtful if you're not present, if you don't connect with your heart, with your soul, with your spirit. And so the holistic nature of this for me is what makes it so powerful.
Yeah, well, I don't get a chance to talk about the heart very much, so I'm really glad to be here because this baby, it does say head and heart, and
Yes.
they're both important. And for some people, they need to be more in touch with their heart. Other people, they actually need to stop just going with their gut or their heart and put the right kind of thought into things, a bit more left brain, as it were. So, everybody's different. And
Yes.
if they're showing up in one way and they don't feel that fulfilled, they don't feel that it's working, there's so many aspects to ourselves that we can play around with and still be authentic.
Absolutely. And for me, it's that balance, is and so for me, the real powerful combination of the two, and in terms of if they work in harmony, if you can harness the strength of the thought and the strength of the heart, the mind and the heart. And it's just really about, how they work together for me, and the balance. And that's what makes me so excited about our conversation and diving a little bit deeper into your book and some of the key themes that I took from it. So I want to start with a concept in the book, which talks to one of the chapters talks to from moving from compete to complete. And so, really, how is that shift? What does it mean? And how is this shift sort of fundamental, especially from a leadership perspective, and changing our relationship with stress and our overall well-being?
Yes, well, thank you for asking the question. It's amazing how even really competent, really experienced, seasoned leaders don't always feel complete. It manifests in different ways. It becomes apparent when people are focused on the competition, and that causes stress, and they don't feel complete in themselves. And that is the place to start. So not to try to research the competition so that you can figure out how you're better. I actually have a different view. Forget about the competition. Forget about everybody else out there and what they're doing, and work on yourself. I've been involved in personal development for over 30 years, and it's one of the best investments that we can make. And the leader who has people following them really has an obligation to, work on themselves and get people inspired the way you're going to inspire by being a role model. So we say, just stop for a minute and see if you're getting stressed out about, the market, the competition, those sorts of things coming from scarcity or lack, or those kind of feelings of angst, all the negative feelings, and get back to your center, get back to what's important. And, people can do this in different ways. I'm a big, big, big believer in coaching, of course. It's wonderful to have somebody who's familiar with a process and how to get to the goal that you want, to help you through it. So that's where I'm coming from, is work on yourself, and everything else will fall into place. And I suggest not looking at what your competitors are doing.
And you actually created a term. It's called Centerpreneur. So center being spelled CENTER, preneur.
Yeah.
And this concept really fascinated me. You told me that I would love it, and so when I listened to the book, I did love it. It was so fascinating. And talk to us a little bit about what that means. You've already sort of started talking about. But just kind of say a little bit more, and really in the context of leadership effectiveness, how you show up as a leader, and also your own personal resilience.
Yes, thank you. That's it's a bit of a play on words. If you have the word entrepreneur and you put a C in front of it, well, that's the British way of spelling it. But
Yeah.
my book is with American spelling, so it doesn't work quite the same, but it's the same idea. It's to be centered, to make that your goal, be grounded. We hear about these things, and I think many leaders think it's a nice idea, but they're firefighting and they're just, dealing with one thing after another. Well, that rubs off on the team. And if you can get yourself to be centered, to be grounded, to be strong and resilient, it gives other people a lot of confidence, not just your team, but also any partners, any suppliers, your clients. It just, everybody can relax and breathe. When somebody is visibly nervous, and it kind of makes you nervous. So I'm talking about resolving that by dealing with your nerves, whatever it is, your fears, doubts, concerns. That's your primary responsibility as a leader. Well, I'm speaking to people who probably have done a lot of this work. And if they're your regular listeners, they know. It's just maybe time to ask ourselves, we know, but are we doing?
And I think for me, the conversation for me is evolving to more of an energetic shift, in the sense of, we're recognizing that so much of how we show up is not even in what we say and what we do. It's actually our energetic presence. And I'm really intrigued with how, we are now in a world where, and I, in my words, and the way I position it in my new book is that energy is a currency. And we really have to position, and think about, how valuable energy is, in the sense of, actually, it matters for the mind. So how people show up really becomes, so important. But it's actually, about your well-being, and in the sense that you really take care of yourself, so that you can be the full you present in a meeting. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you necessarily the loudest person in the room, or saying, having all the answers, but you really show up and you're there and you're present. And for me, that plays a lot to heart-centered leadership as well, and servant leadership, because you can show up and you can hold the room, you can hold the space for other people. And that for me is what becomes so powerful about leaders that can show up in that energetic presence, because then they create those conditions for people to thrive around them.
Yeah, it's rare though, in this day and age, with all the stresses and the stressors, to
The
be
distractions.
able to center yourself. It's super, super important, and it makes such a difference. These days I end up speaking mostly about clarity and confidence and how they play together. And I have said for many years that when you have clarity, you get confidence. But it's a bit of a circle, because if you can be confident that you are strong, you're resilient, you believe in yourself, you trust yourself, and you have strong values and self-esteem, actually you can do a better job when you're looking for clarity in a situation, and when you're writing, when you're preparing a speech, and even in the moment, like you said, in a meeting, just deciding, something happens, someone says something, you're on a stage, something happens. Have you got that confidence to deal with it? That is, I think, one of the most important skills, because you being confident and exuding confidence, like I said, it just helps other people relax and be confident. So these skills, for me, are the most important skills today. There's, they used to be called soft skills, but and they may be hard to master, but they are really, really important, in my opinion.
So clarity and confidence. And so confidence, let's just explore the confidence element a little bit more, because you did say that it's rare. So you obviously can see, lots of people, navigating that crisis in confidence, and there are lots of different labels for it. And the one I hear a lot is the sort of imposter. In the cybersecurity world, certainly we talk a lot about imposter syndrome, or the imposter phenomena. What would you say are the biggest things that sort of hold people back, that erode that confidence?
I think there's one main challenge, and that means there's one possible solution, and that is we're not in the habit of doing the right things, like focusing on the positives, focusing on our strengths, doing the things that you and I do, but very few people do, affirmations, keeping ourselves strong, keeping ourselves hydrated, okay, good sleep, all that stuff. I shouldn't dismiss it. But the main thing is, even if you're tired, you can do an affirmation, and you can playful out, and you can get yourself to the point where you are centered, grounded, and confident, which then, as I say, rubs off on other people. People are not in the habit. They don't know how to access it. In our society, sadly, people don't get that much reinforcement for what they're good at. And there's just so much negativity. We have to work even harder than ever to access that and is important enough to them. And, first people have to even be aware that this is something that they could aspire to. So it's so much easier and so much more fun, I think, to work on yourself and not go after another degree or a PhD or a promotion or working on yourself. You could do it quietly in your own house and you can make a huge difference and you can definitely achieve something. I shouldn't actually say anything about, extra educational degrees and, professional qualifications and, but funny enough, if you work on yourself, I think a lot of those things follow or they're at least easier.
Absolutely. No, and I think this is very much, my belief as well, that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And I mean, that is the awareness and the first step of the raw process is recognize. So recognize is all about noticing what you're noticing, and it's about the conversations that you're having with yourself, and so when we start noticing the limiting self-talk, the old stories, the lies, that's the thing that's going to empower you and transform your inner world in order to transform your outer world. So I love that you've presenced that for all of us, and yes, I'm fully on board with the there's such a negative focus, and so I do a lot of work in the cybersecurity industry and with awareness and culture, and my absolute way to do the work that I do is to focus on the strengths, to focus on the positives. What are we already good at, and can we build on that? Can we celebrate that, and can we get even better still? And so it's the whole principle of you are meant for more and you are already more than enough. And I think that for me really, really dials in the confidence point that you can strive, we are meant for more, having big, bold dreams, taking brave, messy action at the same time, knowing that inherently we are already more than enough. So yeah, thank you so much for presencing that.
Yeah, I don't think many people are thinking about it now. So if you're listening to us, it might be something to explore. And it can be difficult to do it yourself. I will just, make another plug for good quality coaching, good books as well, and the peer group that people you surround yourself with to reinforce that. Because you asked, Mary-Lise, why people don't do it, or so they don't really know what to do.
So I think that that's really valuable advice, is that the power of community, and really surrounding yourself with people that will empower you, will lift you up, will help you strive. I think that for me has been very fundamental or essential, I should say, in my transformation over the last decade or so. And surrounding yourself with people like yourself has
Feelings
really been
mutual.
made more fundamental difference. Okay, so I love that you talk about quality thinking, right? And it's something that really struck me from listening to your book was so powerful when you sort of talked about this idea of you're gonna have thought leadership, or you're gonna have a perspective on something, but it's not necessarily going to be the first time that idea is going to surface. Probably someone's probably already said it 100 or 1,000 years ago. So very rarely are our thoughts unique, but it's the unique way in which you can articulate. So when I listen to you and the way you explain your curriculum, and I listen to myself and the way I explain my curriculum, we're kind of saying the same thing, but it's your authentic words and it's my authentic words. And so that really for me plays to the quality of thought and that sort of importance of winning by thinking and improving our thinking quality. And so let's just think about tips for people who want to improve their thinking quality, not just as a performance tool, but as a
Yeah.
well-being strategy.
Well, it depends what the objective is. I think you know where I'm about to go with this. And I know I have your permission to say what
Yes.
I'm about to say, which is if you want to improve your thinking, stop turning to AI and ChatGPT and all the other tools, because that actually stops people thinking. And this is a bit contentious, and I appreciate many people are amazed by what it can do and enamored with AI and think this is definitely the way forward. I personally think it is making people a bit lazy because they type something in, they get something back, they then think they're having a dialogue with themselves, but they're not. They're actually leaning on and borrowing from content that has been provided from wherever. I'm not going to get into that. You're in the security space. I have views on how to protect your IP and things, and putting it into those systems is not necessarily the best way to do that. But moving into the quality of thought, first somebody has to decide it's important. Intention, which I talk about a lot in the book, is the most important thing. Do people care enough to, listening to us now, listener, do you care enough to up-level your thinking? And you might think, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. No, I don't care. And that's fine. But if you feel a bit of a niggle that, what you're producing, what you're writing about, how you're speaking doesn't really inspire you, isn't saying something exciting and authentic, if not original and unique, if it doesn't inspire you, it's not going to inspire others. And therefore, you need some clever ways to do what I call push your thinking. And in the book, I go through that. Just like most people won't push themselves at the gym unless they have a personal trainer or a regime or some reason for doing it, a wedding coming up or whatever. We don't, as human beings, tend to push ourselves. We like our comfort zone. And the comfort zone, it gets a bad reputation, but I think it's really, really good to have a comfort zone and know when and where you're comfortable. However, if you want to grow as a person and you want to put out really thought-provoking content, then you must push your thinking. And as of today, we're speaking today, 2025, it's my view that using tools like AI, it's not really pushing your own thinking. And I've had many discussions with people, and I'm slightly open to persuasion. but I think we can. Well, it's evolving, Mary-Lise. I a few months ago, last year, when I started working with these topics, I had a client writing about AI, and there is a place for it, and it's beautiful, and it's being, helping people be productive, but not for thinking things through. And it isn't a great way to clarify your thinking. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I think people are unused to, not conditioned to do the deep work. And I'm here to say that that deep work is the only way to feel really fulfilled about what you think, what you believe, what you personally are saying, not
Yeah.
something that's been provided for you and you've tweaked it around, or nobody will ever feel as proud of that content or as fulfilled and like they've achieved something as they will when they do that hard work, the deep work. I could go on and on, but yeah, we we have a short time together. You did ask.
It's absolutely, and so I do use AI myself, and it is contentious. I think there's going to come a point where people people actually will learn to use AI thoughtfully. And I have people in my network who are leaders in this space around prompting and how you actually use AI, but you use it intelligently, and you use it not as a monkey say monkey do tool, and you mentioned earlier how obvious it is when you get a piece of writing from someone and they've used an AI tool. So it's really, I think, as you say, the space is evolving. I think there's something to be said about the intelligent use of it, but I think that's really to be revealed, and I think lots of debate in this space, and let's not go much deeper into that.
It's my core work. So you spoke about my book coaching, which is now 23 years of coaching individuals and people in groups to write their book, to pull their book out of their head, their heart, and their gut. It's their book, it's their concept. Obviously, it should be their words. I was never a big believer in ghostwriting, but it's fine. People will do these things. But where
Yes.
I play in the market, and where I need to stay true to myself, and I know you'd
Yes.
agree with this, is
Yes.
not leaning on any tools and doing that deep work to figure out what it is you have to say to the market, how you want to say it, and really pushing. It's so rewarding. It's so, I have testimonials coming in from my clients who are doing this work, and they surprise themselves. They haven't used any tools, and it's tempting, but they're doing the work. That's my answer.
I can vouch for this, the fact that, and I have worked with you on one collaborative book in the past, and it's a very cathartic experience as well. Writing my first book was a very healing journey for me. Like, it was very important to navigate through that process in terms of my own healing, and who I became in the process of writing that book. So I totally hear you, and I totally believe you. And it's that you're talking to the soul of the book, which is the person, the individual writing the book, and you want to retain that, you want to have that, you want to bottle that. It needs to be so unique, and we are all super unique. Each and every one is unique. So
Yeah, well, if you think about the fact that when I started in this business 23 years ago, there were 500,000 books coming out in the English language every year. Now that figure it's estimated at 10 million. And with the ease of, using AI tools and just the popularity of putting books together,
sure.
it's going to surpass 20 million, 50 million, goodness knows how many books there will be. So it's already hard to find the needle in the ever increasing haystack, as I said in 24 Karat Bold. But we must strive. We cannot just put more noise out there. We cannot cheat. This is my view. It's not fair to our market, to our readers, to our clients, but mostly it's not fair to ourselves, our souls, our creator. I just don't understand how people can think they can just slap things together and put them out there. It's against my religion anyway.
And I love that you're so passionate
I
about it.
am.
So I want to talk a little bit about, and conscious that we can carry on forever, but we are sort of coming to the end of the conversation. But I love leaving my listeners with practical advice. You said earlier, and I love that you said, do you have the desire to think better, are you aspiring to think better? And if you don't, then that's okay. I love that you've sort of called that out, because not everybody want it, and Continuing in that vein, when we talk about this kind of balance between, you want to be that thoughtful leader that Minnie describes, at the same time, you feel like you barely have the bandwidth to get through the day. Where can people start? What is the top tips around, allowing yourself to show up in your authentic leadership and your roar?
Well, I did put a lot of thought and time and care into my baby. It's not actually my latest book, but it is my flagship book. It's my main book these days. It underpins everything. So read or listen to The Thoughtful Leader, reflect, and then if you have questions, I'm very accessible. I'm very easy to find. Just message me and get in touch. And, you know, I love when people are interested in and passionate about and committed to working on themselves. So if you're one of those people, then we're here for you. Mary-Lise, and, now you know me. This is the most important thing you could do. And whatever else you were thinking was the most important thing, it's not that. It's working on yourself. And in my opinion, becoming a thoughtful leader has all these benefits. So, the book is a really, really easy way to get started. It's the Kindle version is always on sale. The audiobook, which she listened to, it's me reading it. So yeah, just spend a little time exploring and reflecting.
Yes, beautiful. And I think that transformation from the inside out, the self-development piece is coming through so strongly today. And I think what I would love to just leave the listeners with is if you are in that place where you feel a little bit stuck, um, be kind to yourself, have grace with yourself and know that, you can get out of this. And it takes just one small baby step. I would say just do one thing different. I think that's the main place to start, even if it's a 5 minutes, just as you talked about a positive affirmation or a meditation or just going for a little walk or having an extra glass of water. It genuinely starts with small little steps like that. And then it comes with a lot of self-compassion, a lot of inner strength, inner confidence in yourself that you are enough, that you're already more than enough. And that transformation really truly happens from the inside, and that transform into your outer world. Mindy, thank you so much for joining me today. I really truly loved listening to your book, and I cannot believe it took me this long. It really was so inspirational, and it's just so like the way that you coach is also the way that you write that book. Like it was so evident because I was listening to it both from obviously just a consumer, but also as someone who write my own books. And I could so just see how you've applied all the learnings in the book and so beautifully in the structure. And so, yeah, piece of art, definitely piece of art.
You.
Yeah, where can people find you if they want to reach out? I know you're everywhere, but what would
Hmm.
be the best place to point people to get hold of you?
Well, sure. MindyGK.com. I use Mindy GK because I have quite a long last name and people get confused. Or they will find me on LinkedIn, and I know you'll put the links in the show notes. And I can't stress enough how excited I am to speak to new people, to help anybody who is aiming to better themselves. That's really what drives me. That's why I'm here on the planet. So if you just want to connect, and we'll see you around.
And I'll just do a little call out for Mindy's TEDx. She did 2 TEDx talks as well, so you can search for those. Very, very powerful talks she did some time ago now, but
Oh,
it's
no, the
really
other one was
nice.
only last year, the second one. Yeah,
I thought it was longer ago. Okay, no,
one.
very, very nice way to also get to know the person behind the persona, I don't know, that doesn't actually make much sense.
That's fine.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. If you loved the conversation, make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode. And in the meantime, I would just love to invite you to live your authentic purpose, stand in your power, and have the courage to roar. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.